Hey you! Before this video starts, I need your help. I'm wanting to collect some user feedback on the Wandering Drone mod. I'm planning on releasing a huge balance patch that should hopefully make the character more fun to play, especially regarding the skill tree. I know that some of the skills are a bit underwhelming, and so I want to get your feedback to help find the best areas of the tree to improve. Just scan this QR code or follow the link in the description or pinned comment, and you can provide feedback on your experience playing Wandering Drone. Any responses are appreciated, and it would help me out a ton. If you weren't aware, I've made a mod character for DST complete with totally unique, fun, and cool abilities.
I guess the mod is more or less done, and I can publish it now. Oh, wait. I have to make a skill tree now? Fuck.
And then they added skill trees to the game. Let's just have a moment of silence for all the poor mod devs having to develop one of those, so the character isn't weirdly out of place. Anyway, yes, I did that. This is probably going to be a more laid-back look at the process of making the skill tree and the design decisions behind it. That video on the mod character as a whole took like months, and I'm not mentally prepared to do that again, so here we go. The biggest, most dominant section of the skill tree is entertainment. Each of these skills is directly associated with one tape ability that the character has. There's no limit as to how many you can have, and they're all available from the start, so there's nothing preventing you from choosing skills that benefit your favorite tapes. The skills effects range from adding planar damage to the tapes to hopefully make the character more viable in the late game, to some really cool unique functionalities. My personal favorite from this section is Chop Chops, which buffs porcine propaganda, making it spawn 4 elite pigs for the duration of the ability. To be honest, I think porcine propaganda is sort of a sleeper hit to begin with, but this ability is so much fun to play around with. The pigs are absolute monsters, and being able to summon them wherever you want is powerful and fun as hell. Giving each tape its own skill sets Wandering Drone's skill tree apart from most others. I want each ability to feel bespoke and fun, and giving you guys a unique buff for each tape instead of something generic like 10% longer tape duration is something that I think is pretty fun. With that said, I know that some of the combat tapes are a bit overshadowed by the others even with their skills, which is why you should fill out that feedback form. All jokes aside, I really am looking forward to making a big old balance patch for this mod. The 2 electricity-themed tapes are definitely a bit lacking compared to the others. Circuit building requires taking damage in order to proc, and though its effects are really good, it is a bit costly to use because of this. Storm Chasers is cool, but it simply doesn't do enough damage to compete with Disappearing Act, even with the skill. Wandering Drone kind of lacks in late game power, which is partially due to my inability to actually reach the late game without getting bored when playing DST myself. Adding planar damage to the combat tapes helps, but it would definitely be nice to make them even more interesting and powerful later on. That only leaves one thing. All the entertainment skills are available from the start, but how? Is it something to do with that creepy looking mask thing staring at me? The next panel of the skill tree you might notice is Clean Freak. This tree is quite small, but it has some of the coolest stuff in there in my opinion. The first thing is Eject, locked behind investing in 8 other skills from any category. Ejecting is by far the most requested feature for my mod, and it's pretty awesome to actually have it be part of the experience now. While a tape's being played, you can now pop it out, ending the effects early and freeing up your tape slot so you can play a different one. This is at the cost of double durability and a small itch penalty. The cost for ejecting is quite high, but I feel that this is fair since it does kind of let you cheat the tape system. Part of the original idea is you'd have to plan out what tapes you'd use and when, taking into account how long they lasted for and what you intended on doing during that time. Eject comes to a bit of a compromise. You can end the tape's effects early, but it burns a decent amount of resources and costs you some of that precious meter. This gives players agency to change their tape in a dire situation, like if they desperately need to use a combat tape, but doesn't let them freely switch abilities at will with no cost. Recently, I realized that using the eject action is completely impossible with a controller, as it involves mousing over your character and right-clicking when a tape's inserted. This meant I'd have to add another way to activate the ability through a controller button bind. I also added a keyboard key bind while I was at it, cause why not? This was kind of a tricky design decision to make because, well, there aren't really that many buttons on a controller, and since Don't Starve Together involves a lot of inventory management and crafting menus and stuff like that, every single controller button already does something. The best compromise I could come to was requiring both bumpers to be pressed at the same time. The bumpers are used to control the camera rotation, which is annoying and results in this happening, but at least the effect on gameplay is fairly minimal. If you don't like the camera wiggling around, there are a couple other options for the eject bind, but neither of them are perfect. I wouldn't have realized that my skill tree was technically bugged for controllers without using one myself. If anyone tried to play my mod with one before that patch, they wouldn't have been able to use the eject skill at all. I've actually been trying to learn to use a controller recently, since I've been a mouse and keyboard user pretty much my whole life. Ideally, this would be done with a controller that has all those brilliant pro features, like Hall effect sensors that are immune to stick drift, and a nice ergonomic design. Unfortunately, features like these are usually behind a huge paywall that's quite a turn-off for controller newbies like myself. Thankfully, Gamesir's Kaleid controllers are the perfect entry point into the wired controller world. I've had a blast playing with this thing so far. Yes, it's ergonomic and the buttons and joysticks feel fantastic to use, but it also has a striking retro-inspired transparent chassis, where all the beautiful 45-degree angles of the PCB can be viewed unimpeded. If you want to grab one of these babies for yourself, I have an affiliate link in the description and pinned comment. Experience the benefits of Pro controllers without the Pro price tag. And as a side bonus, it helps you uncover annoying inconsistencies in your mod's control scheme. To repeat, if you're interested, click the link in the description. It would help support me greatly, and you'd get your hands on a fantastic RGB framed wired Xbox controller. Now, where were we? Of course. The next two skills in the Clean Freak tree go hand in hand. They unlock a structure and a new tape, which synergize in order to revolutionize your tape storing experience. The Media Archive is a buildable structure that can store any of the playable tapes. On its own, it can reduce clutter in your base, as building enough chests to store multiple of each tape would be pretty annoying. But the real power of the archive is unveiled once you craft Apportation, the tape unlocked by the next skill in the tree. Apportation lets you remotely access the archive's contents by spawning a helpful little portal that follows you around. This gives you a lot more power over which tapes to carry with you. Not sure if you'll run into a dangerous combat encounter? Wondering whether you'll need some emergency healing and itch recovery? Debating whether to go tape hunting? Simply shove every tape inside your media archive and you can access them whenever you need. Two systems probably need some tweaking. It's difficult to gauge their usefulness in day-to-day gameplay without doing some testing in a long-term world, but I haven't really had time for that lately. With that said, hopefully the feedback form can provide some useful insights into these items. Either way, I'm pretty happy with how these two turned out. There's a surprising amount that goes into making structures and creatures, which the remote portal technically is. And also you have to touch Spriter to make them, which obviously sucks. Finally, there's Brute Force, which lets you break down tape bits into tape aggregate. The exchange rate is pretty bad, only giving you one tape aggregate back with a small chance for two, but if you have an excess of one type of tape bit, it can be a great resource management tool. The tuning tree is the second to last, and is pretty self-explanatory, being just stat increases. The first set of skills increases your max itch meter, letting you store loads of that precious juice, giving you more freedom to use combat tapes without running dry. The combat drone skills, despite your not being a combat drone, decrease the itch cost of combat tapes, meaning you can be much more efficient with all that stabbing, murdering, and killing you're probably doing. And that's pretty much it. It's a great place to dump any extra skill points you may have. Every skill tree has to at least have some simple stat increases, and I think this section of mine is quite fair. The increases are huge, while still being very expensive to invest in if you want to max them out. Finally, Affinity. Every character's skill tree has an affinity section where players can choose between lunar or shadow alignment. Each of these offers unique perks to do with the respective faction. For Wandering Drone, I opted for tape and resource generation. The first two skills in each faction's side increase tape drop chance when the player is insane or enlightened, the replacement sanity bar in lunar areas. This is a very strong conditional boon, as if the effect procs, you flat out get an extra tape drop, alongside the slightly increased drop chances. The other skills give each tape a chance to contain lunar or shadow resources. If you have the second skill, the chances are higher, and if rifts are active, you can receive post-rift resources. These two sets of skills synergize, since if you get more tapes, you also get more of the resources. But to be honest, these skills are probably my least favorite from the tree. Resource and tape generation is cool, and honestly pretty good, but it's not very exciting. I think at this point I was a bit burnt out from making the media archive and remote portal that I kind of cheaped out on the affinity tree, I guess you could say. I do have some ideas that can make the skills more interesting, to do with cracking open tapes in combat. This would incentivize carrying them, and would maybe add some more depth to how the tape junk is used. In their current form, they're always broken open as soon as they're found, and it could be fun to play around with them as a limited use combat tool that comes at a significant inventory cost. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself here. Future balancing decisions will only be made after rigorous consultation with the form. That's pretty much it for the design decisions behind the skill tree. It'll be fun and interesting to see how all the skills end up after I've collected enough results from the survey. Now's your chance to have a say on the development of this mod. You know where to find the link. Something democratic balancing. That only leaves one question. Seriously, what's up with this weird looking face? I can't shake the awful feeling that it's
Staring right into me.
That's all for this video. Thanks for watching all this way. Depending on how the balance update goes, I may make a follow-up video discussing the changes that I made, but that depends on how well this one does. Also, the first question in the survey optionally asks you to upload a screenshot of your Wandering Drone skill tree in use, to help me gauge the most commonly used skills. If you don't feel comfortable uploading to Google Forms, feel free to post it in my Discord server or DM it to me. That's everything. Thanks for watching and happy tape hunting. And as a side bonus, what? That's not a word.